On today's show, Devin Booker hits a buzzer beater to send Oklahoma City home with a loss. The Detroit Pistons go into Cleveland to get a big win, and we talk about every game from NBA Sunday right here on Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's up, everybody? My name's Danny Cunningham. I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at Locked On Cavs. Swipa. He covers the Denver Nuggets over at Locked On Nuggets, and you're listening to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. You can find this show anywhere you get your podcast. It's Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube as well. So as we get started, please do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button on YouTube and make sure you're subscribed wherever you are listening. This show, of course, is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in all of America. We had a great day of really sports action. Like NFL was awesome too on Sunday, but NBA had some great games. And so I want to start in Phoenix, where the Suns took down the Oklahoma City Thunder, giving OKC its 6th loss of the season. Devin Booker hit a three-pointer with under 2 seconds left to send OKC home a loser. Before we dive into this, let's hear more from Locked On Suns.
Phoenix Suns defeat the Oklahoma City Thunder 108-105 on a Devin Booker game winner. Let's talk about it. Benjamin Garcia, Locked On Phoenix Suns. And let's talk about the best player from this game today in Jordan Goodwin, who had 8 3-pointers tonight, did everything on the defensive end, and it just continues to beg the question of, what do you do with guys like him or Jamari Abouye or Colin Gillespie's minutes when both Jalen Green and Grayson Allen come back? Hint, I have the answer for you. You trade someone, that probably being Grayson Allen, to help solidify this starting lineup. He was awesome tonight. No one makes a tough shot look easy quite like Dylan Brooks. He had continuous tough shot after tough shot in this game. And then, of course, the Devin Booker game winner who, even though he's struggling a bit this season and he only shoots 30% from three, you had no doubts knowing that that ball was going to go through the net on that game winner on Caruso and Jalen Williams. And the Suns had one way to win this game. Make it gross, make it ugly, beat them on the boards, try to force a timely turnover or two, make someone have a tough night. I've never seen SGA be that uncomfortable on a basketball court. And so the Suns, you keep doubting them, but they just keep winning.
Certainly the best win of the season so far for the Suns, and as Benjamin mentions, Jordan Goodwin, 26 points off the bench, goes 9 of 16 from the floor, 8 of 13 from beyond the arc, and Devin Booker hit his lone three-pointer of the game to win the game 108-105. As he also mentioned, SGA didn't necessarily have the best night, finished with 25 points, but needed 22 shots to get there.
Yeah, this is kind of payback from the November 28th game versus OKC. They lost by 4. SGA made a 3 to put them back up, I believe, 4 in that game. Colin had a really good game in that one. But look, this was a great performance. And given the fact that they're missing what they're missing, obviously OKC, they were down a couple guys as well. But that team's been a juggernaut all year. And that was a phenomenal game from Dylan Brooks, especially, and from Jordan Goodwin. Jordan Goodwin was getting the primary SGA assignment. Royce O'Neal at times would get switched out onto him. Just wasn't a great matchup, but Jordan Goodwin took the responsibility. He did very well in creating pressure and not allowing for his hands to get stuck in the quote-unquote cookie jar in this game. SGA went to the line 9 times, and, he got there a couple times in the fourth quarter, but just really, really, really disciplined play. And at some point in time, by the way, the Suns, SGA had 4 fouls. So they started the last 5 minutes of the game. They started bringing SGA into every single action they had, in part because he's obviously the best scorer in the team. So we want to try to get him tired out as possible. He's also the worst defender on the floor for the OKC Thunder. And they scored on every action they ran towards SGA for at least 4 straight minutes. And so just tremendous game planning by Jordan Knott, and Devin Booker obviously hitting that shot. I did not think he was going to take a pull-up 3, especially from that deep. Given how the game flow had felt, could it felt like Jordan or Dylan might get this opportunity if they try to collapse onto Booker. But Booker, man, he just was ready for the moment, rose up above everybody, and hit the biggest Phoenix shot of the season. So it was a phenomenal basketball game all the way around.
Do you think we're seeing a blueprint on how to beat OKC? And this isn't to take away from how good that basketball team is, because I do believe they're the best team in the NBA still, but they're 6-4 in their last 10. They've not played their best basketball as of late. And I don't think it's important for them to necessarily play their best basketball at the end of December, early January. But I do think that we are seeing a common thread in some of the losses that they've had.
Yeah, I just think that this is not an indictment, but OKC, they're not the same team versus above 500 teams this year. They're just not. And their performances, and like if you look at like some of the just net rating stuff about them this season, they just don't seem to have the same kick as they do versus teams that are below 500 and the teams that are struggling, especially on the margins, or don't have like the kind of personnel to guard them or score on them. And because SGA is having to have such a tremendous offensive season to carry this offense, because the defense is historic. But the problem is their offense is more clunky than it's been in the past. So if you can find a way to really bother SGA with length, with size, and with physicality to a point, then you can throw him off a little bit. And then on top of that, J-Dub hasn't had the best season, had a really good game today, and then made some back to buckets to get them back into the game and tie it back up. But if you can really focus in on SGA and then also try to take advantage of him defensively, limit their other scores from being in good spots that are prominent, that they feel good in, yeah, I think the Wolves have shown that. The Spurs have shown that. If you attack them with ball handling, with size and athleticism, you can absolutely beat OKC.
I do think that they look a little more beatable than I thought they would at any point this season. There's a certain point early on that when I think they were 24-1, I thought, hey, 74 wins in play. That obviously not going to be the case anymore. But we move on because the Los Angeles Lakers got a 120-114 win over the Memphis Grizzlies in late night action on Sunday. Los Angeles in this game trailed by as many as 16 points against the Grizzlies before they came back to win. Luka Doncic finished with 36 points. LeBron had 26, 10, and 7. Jake LaRavia had 26 points. Overall, I think a nice win for the Los Angeles Lakers as they continue on without Austin Reeves. But before we dive more into this, let's hear from Locked On Lakers.
Nick Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast. The Lakers get a 120-114 win over the Grizzlies in LA, a game the Lakers largely spent battling from behind. During the first half, they could not make a three to save their lives. The defense, particularly off their own misses, was very bad. They were getting killed on the glass. Memphis got a lot of second chance opportunities. But during the second half, the Lakers just began chipping away. They outscored Memphis by 17 over the final two quarters. Luka Doncic, 36 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 10 of 20 from the field, got to the line 13 times, made 12 of them. LeBron James, 26 points, 7 rebounds, 10 assists against just 1 turnover, and 26 points for Jake LaRavia. Second straight game stepping up big with a lot of guys out for the Lakers. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcast.
I do think this is a nice win. And I think one of the things too is it started with defense. Like this Lakers team was better defensively in the second half than they were the first. They held Memphis to just 49 points in the second half. And yeah, there were like Jalen Wells hit a few threes in the fourth quarter that did keep Memphis in it. But overall, like to me, when a team's going to go on a run and come back from down as many as Los Angeles was, it has to start on the defensive end.
Yeah, that was a great comeback win for the Lakers. And they had just played this Memphis team the other night. And, you know, I think I saw some Lakers fans on the timeline that were just saying, why are we struggling versus this team? And a part of it because, you know, they didn't have Ja Morant today. So when they don't have Ja Morant, they play a little bit differently because they have to. They have to focus differently. And so they came out with a lot of intensity, the Grizzlies did. But the Lakers did a great job of responding. LeBron had a terrific game. Jake LaRavia had another terrific game. Luka Doncic, terrific game. And then obviously they got some really important defensive possession from Marcus Smart, and DeAndre Ayton as well had 15 and 8 rebounds. So they just, in the second half, they flipped the switch. They figured out how to solve some of the things that the Memphis Grizzlies were doing on both offense and defense, and they were able to put the game away with another really great late run in the fourth quarter.
Is this type of thing sustainable for the Lakers? Because one of the things looking at the box score that really stands out to me is how short they are on the bench right now. Like all 5 starters played at least 31 minutes. Marcus Smart played the fewest amount of minutes as a starter at 31. Luka played 39. LeBron played 37. Jake LaRavia played 35. DeAndre Ayton played 34. Like Jared Vanderbilt was really the only guy off the bench that had an impact for Los Angeles. That to me just screams something that really needs to be addressed very badly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, no Austin Reeves. That matters a lot. Borderline, maybe all NBA player of the season. But yeah, Maxi Kleber, Gabe Vincent, was out with a, had an injury / illness that he had today. Bronny, they just don't have depth. And then Dalton, obviously, Connect, they were expecting more out of him, but he just is not ready to take up a lot of those minutes. They got Nick Smith Jr. coming off the bench now. They're very, very, very thin, not just on the bench, but on the wings as well. They absolutely have to find another wing somehow.
What would you do as the trade deadline approaches if you're in charge of the Lakers? And I know we have about a month until that happens, but what would you do?
I think they got to be realistic. Like, I wouldn't give a lot of future assets up for this team, personally. I don't think they're that good to do that. But if you can find, like they did a couple years ago, Jared Vanderbilt for 2 second-round picks, Rui Hachimura for nothing from the Washington Wizards, if you can find more wings like that to add to your roster that are talented, they just need to be in a good situation, I would absolutely do that if I was the Lakers.
I think that's probably the right way to go. We'll see what happens in due time. But up next, the Detroit Pistons get a nice win in Cleveland thanks to a two-way standout. Yes, Dennis Jenkins went off for 25. We'll talk about that straight ahead right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge. But with Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure football matchups every weekend and Elite Hoops action almost every night, the action never slows down, and Prize Picks lets you stay in control. Prize Picks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on your player projections. No drafts, no waiting, just pick more or less and play your way. Getting started on Prize Picks is quick and simple. The app's super easy to navigate, and it makes watching games more engaging, especially when you're following an individual player performances. Maybe you had Lamar Jackson over passing yards, or maybe you had Derrick Henry under rushing yards on Sunday Night Football, and you will have so much more to play with the playoffs coming up, and flexibility options like Flex Play, where you can still get paid even if one pick misses. Plus, the new early payout features a total game changer, because if a player starts off hot, well, then you can cash out before the game ends. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA, to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen, and thank you for finding us on YouTube. Please do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button as we continue on here. Make sure you check out the Everydayer Club as well, because if you sign up, you get access to an ad-free audio feed for this show, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app, plus an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, and a link is in the show description to check that out. The Detroit Pistons went on the road to Cleveland today, got a 114-1 win, to 110 win over the Cleveland Cavaliers. And this was a game where Cavs started out well, thought they played excellent defensively in the first quarter, held Detroit to just 19 points. And then in the second quarter, two-way guard wing Dennis Jenkins goes off for 21 points, hits 6 of 6 from beyond the arc, also had an and one over Evan Mobley in the second quarter. Single-handedly swung this game as the Pistons scored 47 points in the second quarter alone. They did not top 30 points in any of the other three quarters, but overall, I think this was a really nice win for Detroit in a game that the Cavs probably would like to have back.
Yeah, the good thing is the Cavs were on a little bit of a win streak where they went 4 in a row.
They had won 3 straight.
3 straight.
And they had won 5 out of 7. So like they had felt good about themselves. And I think that this loss doesn't erase that stuff. Like they can still feel okay about themselves, but this is a game they probably think they should have won.
Yeah. I mean, Detroit was able to take advantage of just like finding some good rhythm, I think, in the second half and obviously in the third quarter. But in the fourth quarter, what's funny enough is like, it's not like they played phenomenal, but they just made just enough plays down the stretch of the game to secure the win. And, Cade Cunningham is having obviously an all NBA season this year. Some people think like, fringe, MVP season. And, he didn't have like his typical like Cade Cunningham type game, but again, just making just enough plays. By the way, shout out to Asar Thompson, man. Like one of the things he doesn't get a lot of credit for is just like some of the playmaking stuff that he does, man, and like some of the decision making that he does with his team. They honestly are trying to figure out how to put more ball handling around Cade, and so you see them like trying different things and trying new lineups and trying different things they're doing, and they're just able to find ways to continue to create and just do some great things. And so shout out Isaiah Stewart had 8 points today with 3 rebounds. But again, that physicality I think really matters a lot when you play versus Detroit. So it was just a good win for Detroit as well. Obviously, they're missing their second best player in this game.
Yeah. No Jalen Duren certainly hurt them. Obviously, they didn't have Tobias Harris, Karis LeVert either. I think Duren is obviously more impactful to their chances of winning than those other two guys are. For the Cavs, fun fact, this was their 19th different starting lineup of the season, which is tied for the most in the NBA. Did not have that on my Cavs bingo card entering the season. This loss drops them to 20-17 on the season. Detroit improves to 26-9 with the win. But we move on now to your Denver Nuggets, who were in Brooklyn on Sunday afternoon. They fell to the Brooklyn Nets 127-115. Obviously, no Nikola Jokic, but they did get Christian Braun back in this game. What'd you see from Denver here? Like, why was this a struggle in Brooklyn?
Man, David Adelman was very upset after the game. He did not like the energy they came out with. He did not like the intensity and the physicality, versus the first 2 games without Jokic versus the Raptors and Cleveland. They definitely punched first, and they set the tone from the onset. For whatever reason in Brooklyn today, they did not. They caught and received the physicality. And Jamal Murray had 27 points. He has 16 assists. But most of his points that he got came in the fourth quarter, kind of as they were trying to get back into the game. His playmaking was tremendous. He had 14 assists through the first 3 quarters. The problem is that their teams are now 3 games into this, no Jokic, and then obviously AG and CB coming back, but they're not themselves yet. They're absolutely blitzing the crap out of Jamal and just saying, we don't believe you can generate enough offense to beat us. And then defensively, they had a lot of good defenders on the floor, but the thing about playing defense is not just effort, it's also timing. And the timing was off and the effort wasn't where it needed to be. And so they were getting beat off the dribble, back cuts. But shout out Jordi Fernandez. Jordi Fernandez has done a terrific job with the Brooklyn Nets. He did a great job last year. They've been playing really good defense lately this season. So shout out to them. But off the bench, Aaron Gordon, he had 20 points. He was 8 of 15 from the field. The offense was better than the defense by a lot. His defense wasn't great, but again, he's going to take a couple weeks for him to get back. Christian Braun came back, played 24 minutes. They hadn't played in over 19 games and 23 games. So just for people to know how long they have been out this season. Christian was a minus 23. The offense was bad. And then defensively, obviously, he just wasn't doing a lot to impact the game. And so it was just kind of a clunky performance. Deron Holmes, the rookie who got the second start ever, had a really bad game. Spencer Jones, their 2-way player they're starting, he was cool, but then just didn't produce a lot. Michael Porter Jr., by the way, had 27, 11, and 5 today. So shout out to MPJ. He led the game in plus minus as well. They're just missing not just Jokic. They're trying to reforge an identity, Danny, and I think that's the biggest thing they're running into right now.
Just given how good MPJ was in this game, and he's having a very good season, I think it's fair to say, in Brooklyn. And Cam Johnson has been injured for a little bit, and I think spent a good chunk of the start of the season trying to figure things out and trying to figure out where he fit in. Do you think that Denver would do that trade over again if given the opportunity? Yeah. Like, do you think they would take that back or no?
Yeah, 10 times out of 10. It was never about just Porter. Porter has had, I think, in the years he's been in Denver, he had a really good series versus the Lakers in the playoffs in 24. And then he had some really good moments in the playoff run in 23 when they won the title. Last year, obviously the shoulder injury took some things out of his bag. But, they had a lot of issues, defensively with Porter, Murray, and Jokic on the floor at times. Porter obviously was making $38 million a year essentially too. So, just where the CBA is, you just can't be paying Murray 52, Jokic 70, $63 million. And then Porter, not an all-NBA player, is making almost 40. Because then you got Aaron Gordon making 30. So they just had to find a way to split it up. So because of that, they got Jonas Valanciunas and Cam Johnson. And that's the tragedy of the season. When they were fully healthy, they were like 12-3. They were mobbing through the NBA. The issue is that they got so beat up and hurt that now it's kind of taking a lot of the wind from underneath their sails.
Yeah, I think that when they get healthy, it'll all look better. But you got to get healthy before it will all look better. There's a few more games that we have to dive into, so we will do that next right here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's show is brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems, and this is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades that you can make. And that's why this episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled QUO, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customer. Quo makes everything simple. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal. Works right from your phone or your computer, and you can even keep your existing number. Plus, Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight the next steps so that details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise that Quo was the #1 business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That is Quo, QUO.com/lockedonnba, LOCKEDONNBA. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen. Thank you to those of you that make the show your first watch on YouTube every single day. And next, we head on over to Orlando, where the Magic get a 135-127 win over the Pacers. Let's hear from Philip Rossman-Reich with more.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic here at the Kia Center, as the Orlando Magic defeat the Indiana Pacers 135-127, a game that did not feel like an Orlando Magic game, except for that second quarter when Orlando erased a 13-point deficit with a 41-22 quarter. Magic simply are not playing the defense at the level and the standard that they have set for themselves. This is not Orlando Magic basketball, not in the way that the Magic are used to, but until they can find that defensive presence, until they can find the defense that has defined this team for the last 3-4 seasons, they got to just find ways to win. And the Magic did that today. They were able to get the baskets they needed. They were able to get the stops they needed in the fourth quarter eventually. They just got to find ways to win. You learn lessons while winning. You'll live with that. And you just got to keep stacking up wins as much as you can, especially against teams at the bottom of the standings like the Indiana Pacers. Orlando has a lot to work on. They're struggling with a lot of different things right now, but the Magic are staying competitive. They're not getting blown out, and they got to win on Sunday afternoon. That's a place to start.
And for a Pacers point of view, we'll head on over to Tony East.
To the Magic, 135-127. That's a lot of points for the Orlando Magic because they never score that much. The second most Orlando has scored in any game this season. Pacers defense miserable again. The second quarter, over 40 points for the Magic, and that doomed the Pacers. A 17-0 run in that quarter for Orlando. They won by 8. The rest of the game, the Pacers were the better team. That's the story of their season. They're good for 30, 35, 40 minutes of a 48-minute game, but never all 48. Today, their offense looked pretty good. Pascal Siakam was awesome. Andrew Nembhard came alive in the second half, but the Magic were comfortably ahead, and they ran away with it. The Pacers have got to figure this out. Prior to December, they'd given up 1 40-point quarter this season. They've given up 4 in the last 10 days. Now, many of them coming in second quarters. Orlando beats them for the second time in a week, and the Pacers have lost 12 in a row. That ties a franchise record. They'll try to avoid the worst stretch in Pacers history when they host the Cavs in 2 days. We'll have much more on Locked On Pacers.
So I found out something, and on my show, Locked On Cavs, I do these things where I will sit down with the host of the Locked On show that the Cavs are going to play this upcoming week. As Tony mentioned, the Cavs play the Pacers on Tuesday. So I put Rick Carlisle, who, as you know, the Pacers are now in the midst of a 12-game losing streak, has been sitting on 999 career wins this entire time. He has lost 12 straight chances to move to 1,000 wins in his career.
Yeah, I don't blame him at all for that. This is the most unfortunate of situations that's existed in the league. So that's really unfortunate. It's kind of hilarious. I'm sure that he's laughing about that a little bit inside of his home.
I mean, I think if you don't laugh about it a little bit, you have to cry about it, right? Like, that's kind of the only way to look at that. Elsewhere in the NBA, the Miami Heat get a 125-106 win over the New Orleans Pelicans. Let's head on over to Locked On Heat for more.
Miami simply dominated tonight's matchup versus the Pelicans, cruising to a 125-106 victory and winning 5 of their last 6 games. The game was fairly close in the first half, but as been the case over the recent stretch, Miami's defense was the key, especially in the third quarter when they held the Pelicans at just 15 points. The star of the night was definitely Norm Powell, however, who shot a career-high 9 3-pointers. He was 11 of 15 overall for 34 points, and he's just been incredible of late and has made a really strong case to make his first All-Star appearance of his career. The Heat were also without super six-man Jaime Jaquez Jr., but they got major contributions off the bench from Nikola Jovic and Pelle Larsson, who combined for 35 points. If there's a downside to the game, it's that Bam Adebayo continues to struggle offensively. It was just 5 of 14 overall, but he still continues to do everything else at a high level. And with Miami's depth being such a strength, this team was able to win without him. But their chemistry and rotation is going to be challenged a bit once they welcome back Tyler Hero. He was available tonight, but didn't play, and we'll see if he makes his return to Miami's upcoming 4-game road trip. For more on tonight's game, make sure to check out Locked On Heat.
It is interesting. Tyler Hero was available and didn't play. I've not seen anything more on that situation. I would like to see an explanation for that, but it's very rare that you see a player of his caliber that's available to play in a game and then not play in said game.
Yes, that sounds very much like an internal decision that we will never have access to that conversation.
You don't think Miami's going to tell us everything? That doesn't sound like them. They sound like I thought they would air dirty laundry out.
I'm sure Pat Riley is typing us a letter now, just telling us all the details why Tyler Hero was on the bench the entire night.
Yes, I'm sure we will never get that. But moving on, the Minnesota Timberwolves travel to Washington. They take on a bad Wizards team, and they get a win. Let's head on over to Locked On Wolves for more.
Timberwolves blew out the Washington Wizards by 26 on Sunday. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the daily Locked On Wolves podcast. And Minnesota took a lead about 5 minutes into the game and never relinquished it, holding the Wizards at more than arm's length. They led by 13 or more the entire second half. Anthony Edwards had 35 points in just 30 minutes on just 21 shots, 6 of 10 on threes. Ultra efficient for Anthony Edwards. Fantastic scoring night. The Timberwolves played hard. Rudy Gobert dominated the paint. The points in the paint were the biggest thing. Minnesota didn't actually shoot the ball very well from the perimeter early in this game, but they played harder than the Wizards. They defended without fouling well, and there were some spotty defensive moments in the first quarter for the Timberwolves for sure, but ultimately the defense was pretty good. The offense was great, and Washington's defense was horrible. Gobert finished with 18 and 14 in just 29 minutes and really kind of set the tone for Minnesota, seemingly catching every pass, every lob that was thrown to him from Dante DiVincenzo and Bones Highland. Just an impressive performance from especially Rudy and Anthony Edwards in this one, as the Timberwolves won their second consecutive game, an important win to kind of continue a strong start, or a strong finish, I guess, to this road trip before returning home to face Miami on Tuesday.
Where are you at with the Wolves? Because they are a team that I expected to be better than they are. Their record, I think, is a little bit better than what the product on the floor has been so far, but I just can't quite figure them out.
Oh, yeah, I think they're one of the 5 best teams in the Western Conference pretty easily. I mean, depending on what you want to, make obviously of where the Spurs are at this point. I think they're better than the Lakers. I think they're better than obviously this really broken down version of Denver, but not Denver healthy, obviously. OKC's better, but they already beat OKC. This is a really, really, really good team. And I think they're kind of like a little bit too harsh on the start of the year for them. Right now I'm looking at dunks and threes, which is like adjust for schedule. They currently have the 8th best defense in the NBA and 10th best offense. And so they're like playing very good basketball. It's just, I think early on in the year, not only were they trying to like get healthy, but also they were just having like the defense was not what it normally is when you play the Wolves. So, but they're extremely talented. Their bench is not as good though, Danny. That's the difference. No Nickeil Alexander-Walker makes a big difference. Now it's Terrence Shannon, Bones Highland, Jalen Clark, and Naz Reid. That configuration has not been as good, but their starting 5 is still like one of the best in the sport.
I just think I don't know what I'm going to get from them on a night-to-night basis. Like, am I going to get the team that looks disinterested and lost by 24 points against the Hawks, or am I going to get the team that took care of business against a bad Wizards team? Like, that's ultimately just the thing with
Danny. You leave Minnesota and you visit Atlanta and you think we're going to win the next day, brother. Come on. We know we're doing. We're going out on the town, brother.
Well, they did it at home against the Nets too. They lost a home game to the Brooklyn Nets, and there's no excuses for that one, like just before. So you gotta.
Can you give the audience some insight? How many times do you think people travel to Atlanta, Miami, LA, New York, lose and/or get blown out? And it is directly related to we went out on the town till 4 a.m.
More often than you think.
A lot of them injury reports that come back talk about an illness.
There's a reason why those teams tend to have pretty good records when they play inside their own friendly confines of their home arena. There's a reason for that, and it's not always the team that takes the court. But finally, we have to wrap up with the Milwaukee Bucks getting a 115-98 win over the Sacramento Kings. Here's Camille Davis from Locked On Bucks with more.
The Milwaukee Bucks got a hard-fought victory over the Sacramento Kings. And when I say a hard-fought victory, emphasis on the fought. I'm Camille Davis from Locked On Bucks, coming to you after the Bucks' 115-98 victory over the Kings. And while that final score might indicate that, the Bucks handled this pretty easily, it got tense in the fourth quarter with the Kings cutting the Bucks' lead down to 3. The Bucks led by as many as 26 in the third quarter, so to see the Kings whittle that down to 3 points felt like pressure time. Doc Rivers wasn't calling timeouts and let the Bucks play through it. And Kevin Porter Jr. and Giannis responded big time in the fourth for the Bucks to get the victory. The Bucks are now 4-1 since Giannis's return to the lineup.
4-1 since Giannis is back in the lineup obviously is a good sign. Does this change? Does this give you hope for the Bucks, or do you just look at them as dead on arrival still? Yeah, I'm with you.
No, game-winning dunk versus Charlotte, and then tonight, no.
I'm with you.
Giannis, you're incredible though.
Giannis is awesome. He's one of the best. You and I were talking about who we think is the top 5 players in basketball in order before we started recording the show, and Giannis is on the list, but the rest of the Bucks, I don't think have anybody else that's in the top 100 of that list. And you can go check out our top 100 somewhere. Locked On did a top 100 this summer, and there were not very many Bucks on it. And I think that's part of the reason why the Milwaukee Bucks currently are 16-20 on the season. But you are a top 100 listener if you finish listening to this show, because we appreciate everyone that makes this show your first listen or even your second listen every single day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. That's Apple, that's Spotify, that is YouTube as well. So as we get out of here, please do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button on YouTube, click subscribe wherever you are listening to the show, and we will be back a little bit later talking about all things NBA.